The police officer looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sir, you're under arrest for criminal trespassing on your own property." And that's the moment I realized my HOA had just made the single dumbest mistake in suburban history. Imagine this 7 a.m., my own driveway, coffee barely steaming in my mug when this cop pulls out handcuffs like I'm some kind of fugitive. Yeah, that happened. The metallic click echoed while my neighbor's Ring camera immortalized every second of my humiliation. And across the street, Bethany Clearwater, our self-appointed HOA dictator, looked like she'd just personally evicted a house full of orphans. The kind of smile you only get from years of making other people's lives miserable. Now let me back up a second. My name's Marcus Thornfield, and for the past 25 years, I made my living destroying criminals in a courtroom. I was a judge, a real one. Dishing out justice is basically my comfort food, so if you think your HOA nightmares are bad, trust me, this one's next level. 6 months ago, I had a whole different life. My wife Elena and I were living out our dream in the city, planning for a peaceful retirement, when cancer crashed the party and stole the last dance. I watched the strongest woman I ever knew fade away in a sterile hospital, and after it was over, I packed up our city house and bought a modest colonial in Willowbrook Estates. 340 grand for white shutters, a front porch, and an oak tree that launches acorns at you like it's got something to prove. The plan was simple: heal, spend time with my daughter Sophia and her kids, maybe learn to fish, or at least figure out a grill without setting the whole neighborhood on fire. What I did not plan on was meeting Bethany Clearwater. Picture every HOA horror story you've ever heard. Give her a real estate license and a God complex, and you've got Bethany. She's got this white BMW with vanity plates, a perfectly manicured lawn, and a husband named Dale who looks like he's been saying "yes, dear" since the Nixon administration. Within 3 days of moving in, I had a crash course in the Bethany Clearwater commandments. Garage doors must close within 30 seconds. She times them, I swear. Trash cans vanish by sunset, or you'll meet her wrath and your mailbox better gleam like it's headed for a beauty pageant. I watched this woman patrol the neighborhood with a clipboard measuring fire hydrants and timing newspaper pickups like she was prepping for the Olympics of pettiness. But see, after 25 years as a judge, you pick up this habit actually reading legal documents before you sign them. I'm talking about HOA covenants that read like bedtime horror stories. Day 3, I find a violation notice on my windshield because my 15-year-old Honda Accord, which runs like a dream, is aesthetically offensive and diminishing neighborhood property values. $50 a day in fines if I don't move it, no joke. So I do what any normal person would do. I call Queen Bethany herself. She answers like she's managing a 5-star hotel. "Mrs. Clearwater, I got a violation notice about my car, but I don't see anything about vehicle age in our rules." Long silence. Then, "Well, there should be such restrictions. We maintain standards here, Mr. Thornfield." When I pointed out the actual document she hit me with, "I don't have time to explain property management to every new resident. The notice stands. Good day." Click. You know that itch you get when someone thinks law is just a suggestion? Yeah, I had that. So that night I spread out every HOA document across my kitchen table, surrounded by cold pizza and the scent of Elena's favorite vanilla candle, and started cross-referencing. And guess what? Not one word about vehicle age or appearance. Bethany was freelancing her own legal system. I realized if she was making up violations for a judge, God only knows what she'd been doing to everyone else. And boy, did she double down. The next week, she started inspections every morning, click, 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 her heels on the asphalt. I saw her knees on the ground in a $100 pantsuit, measuring my fence with a tape, like she was working for CSI Suburbia. "Your fence appears to be improperly positioned, Mr. Thornfield." It'd been there 15 years, but that didn't matter. Another violation. My garden hose wasn't stored right, $25. My mailbox was 2 inches too close to the driveway, $50. Unsecured newspaper delivery at 8:05 a.m., $75. By the end of the week, 14 separate violations totaling $680. It was like HOA bingo, but with my bank account as the prize. Thing is, after decades on the bench, I know the difference between a real rule and a made-up one. So I went through every violation and every bylaw line by line. Turns out all violations must be given 48 hours in advance and reference the exact code violated. Bethany's notices were all same day with zero legal citation, just vague language like visual blight. In my court, she'd be laughed out by lunchtime. So I wrote up a little legal education response, 3 pages, citations, precedents, the works, and delivered it to Bethany in her pink bathrobe, curlers and all. She went through every shade of angry, but I made it clear I wanted a formal hearing before the board. Her door slam shook the petunias off her porch. That afternoon, Margaret, my neighbor, called. "Marcus, don't you dare back down. She's been terrorizing us for years. I've got $2,300 in fines for wind chimes." Turns out Bethany's racket was squeezing everyone. I wasn't just fighting for my Honda, I was fighting for an entire neighborhood. Bethany's response. She called an emergency board meeting. Her living room looked like a Pottery Barn set, all vanilla air freshener and fake hospitality. Only 3 board members, Bethany, her sidekick Janet, and poor Bob, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. She declared emergency vehicle standards, no cars older than 2015, $50 a day property, liens after 30 days. Bob objected, said they didn't have a quorum. Bethany ignored him. The vote was a farce, but I played along watching her dig her own grave. Next official board meeting, I brought Winston, my old court clerk and Robert's Rules ninja. He shut down every procedural scam. Point of order, Madam President. Emergency powers only apply to actual emergencies, and you failed to maintain minutes. Janet stared at her nails. Bob looked relieved, and the emergency rule was tossed. But here's where the twist hit. Dale Bethany's husband pulled me aside, hand shaking. She's using HOA money for her personal stuff, BMW payments, hair salons, everything. He had the receipts. Years on the bench taught me what embezzlement looks like. This wasn't an HOA problem anymore. This was criminal fraud. I looped in my attorney friend Rebecca, who found the HOA's nonprofit status had lapsed 3 years prior, meaning all their fines were legally void. Even better, the bylaws allowed for immediate removal of any board member caught abusing funds. When the State Judicial Ethics Board received a complaint clearly, Bethany's handiwork alleging I abused my position, I laughed. The investigation cleared me and forwarded evidence of Bethany's false allegations to the Attorney General. Meanwhile, the neighborhood was turning on her. Flyers attacking me were actually rallying people to my side. Margaret, Bob, and a bunch of others started a petition. The Johnsons apologized to me for the drama, and Mrs. Patterson offered to be a character witness. Rebecca's digging uncovered something bigger. A federally insured $50,000 construction bond meant for community improvements had been siphoned down to $300, $200 with administrative fees signed by, you guessed it, Bethany. Dale delivered the smoking gun, a handwritten ledger where Bethany documented her thefts like a diary. This was wire fraud, maybe even prison time. We assembled a war room, legal documents, coffee. Winston, Margaret with neighbor signatures, Dale with inside info. The plan call, a special board meeting force, a vote of no confidence, present the evidence, and let Bethany choose resign and repay or face the feds. Bethany responded the only way a desperate criminal can: vandalism. Sugar in my gas tank, slashed tires, all on security camera. Officer Martinez watched the footage, jaw-dropping. When he saw the financial evidence, he called in the white-collar crime unit. Bethany tried everything: anonymous complaints to the city about my shed, tried to coach Dale into lying to the police, even tried to bribe me with a cashier's check for $3,500. She left a written confession with the check. It was almost sad if it weren't so criminal. Bribery charges joined the list. Her last move was pure desperation. She filed a restraining order against me, swearing I'd threatened her in the grocery store. Problem was, I was on the bench with security cameras and 37 witnesses to prove it. Judge Hawkins threw out her claim and warned her about perjury. The prosecutor's office moved in for the kill, embezzlement, wire fraud, false reports, attempted bribery. When Bethany realized the game was up, she went full meltdown, packing a suitcase, muttering about permanent solutions, disappearing in her BMW. By the time of the special board meeting, the community center was packed, news cameras rolling, every neighbor ready for justice. Bethany stormed in, tried to spin it all as a conspiracy, until Detective Violet stood up and placed her under arrest in front of 150 people. The applause was thunderous. That night, public humiliation and criminal prosecution finally took down Willowbrook's queen. 6 months later, our neighborhood was finally a community. Again, no more measuring tapes, no more fear. Margaret became HOA president, Winston the secretary, and the community fund built playgrounds and gardens, scholarships for kids, and yes, even inappropriately whimsical garden gnomes. Bethany pled guilty, lost everything, and Dale filed for divorce, free at last. Turns out all it took to restore justice was someone who read the rules better than the bullies. If you've ever tangled with an HOA tyrant, drop your story below. I read every one. Sometimes the best way to honor someone you love is to protect a community from people who think the law is a weapon, not a shield. Share your stories, your wins, your war wounds. Let's show the world how justice is really done. One neighborhood at a time.